Now this is the account of the reign of Anshar and the kings who followed. When the law was changed, the other princes were contending. Words there were, rebellion there was not. As his spouse, Anshar, a half-sister chose. He made her first wife, by the name Kishar she was called. Thus was by this law the dynasty continued. In the reign of Anshar the fields diminished their yields. Fruits and grains lost abundance. From circuit to circuit, nearing the sun, heat grew stronger. In the faraway abode, coolness was more biting. In Agad, the throne city, the king, those of great understanding assembled. Learned savants, those of great knowledge, to inquire were commanded. The land and the soil they examined. The lakes and the streams they put to the test. It has happened before, some gave an answer. Nibiru in the past, colder or warmer, has grown. A destiny it is, in the circuit of Nibiru embedded. Others of knowledge, the circuit observing, Nibiru's destiny to blame did not consider. In the atmosphere, a breaching has occurred. That was their finding. Volcanoes, the atmosphere's forebears, less belching, were spitting up. Nibiru's air has thinner been made. The protective shield has been diminished. In the reign of Anshar and Kishar, pestilences of field made appearance. Toil could them not overcome. Their son, Anshar, then the throne ascended. Of the dynasty the sixth he was. Lordly master of the Shar, the name did signify. With great understanding he was born. With much learning he mastered much knowledge. To remedy the afflictions ways he sought. Of Nibiru's heavenly circuit he made much study. In its loop, of the sun's family, 5 members it embraced, planets of dazzling beauty. For cures to the afflictions, their atmospheres he caused to be examined. To each he gave a name. Ancestral forefathers he honored. As heavenly couples he them considered. On and onto the twin-like planets he called the first 2 to be encountered. Beyond in Nibiru's circuit were Anshar and Kishar, in their size the largest. As a messenger, Gaga among the others coursed, sometimes first Nibiru to meet. 5 in all were Nibiru's heavenly greeters, as the sun it circled. Beyond, like a boundary, the hammered bracelet the sun encircled. As a guardian of the heaven's forbidden region with havoc it protected. Other children of the sun, 4 in number, from intrusion the bracelet shielded. The atmospheres of 5 greeters Anshar set out to study. In its repeating circuit the 5 in Nibiru's loop carefully were examined. What atmospheres they possessed by observation and with celestial chariots intensely were examined. The findings were astounding, the discoveries confusing. From circuit to circuit Nibiru's atmosphere more belching suffered. In the councils of the learned, cures were avidly debated. Ways to bandage the wound were urgently considered. A new shield to embrace the planet was attempted. All that was thrust up back to the ground came down. In the councils of the learned, the belching volcanoes were studied. The atmosphere by belching volcanoes having been created, its wound by their diminished belching had come to be. Let the invention of new belching be encouraged. Let volcanoes spew again, one savants group was saying. How the feat to achieve, with what tools more belching to attain, none the king could inform. In the reign of Anshar the breach in the skies grew bigger. Rains were withheld. Winds blew harder. Springs from the depths did not rise. In the lands there was an accusation. The breasts of mothers were dry. In the palace there was distress. The accusation therein took hold. As his first wife, Anshar, a half-sister did espouse, by the law of the seed abiding. Ninshar she was called, of the Shars the lady. A son she did not bear. By a concubine to Anshar a son was born. The firstborn son he was. By Ninshar, the first wife and half-sister, a son was not brought forth. By the law of succession the concubine's son the throne ascended. The 7th to reign he was. Du-Uru was his royal name. In the dwelling place fashioned was its meaning. In the house of concubines, not in the palace, was he indeed conceived. As his spouse, a maiden from his youth, beloved Du-Uru chose. By love, not by seed, a first wife he selected. Da-Uru was her royal name. She who is by my side was the meaning. In the royal court confusion was rampant. Sons were not heirs, wives were not half-sisters. In the land suffering was increasing. The fields forgot their abundance. Among the people fertility was diminished. In the palace fertility was absent. Neither son nor daughter was brought forth. Of An's seed 7 were rulers. Then of his seed the throne was dry. Da-Uru, a child at the palace gateway found. As a son she embraced him. Du-Uru in the end as a son him adopted. Legal heir him decreed. Lama, meaning dryness, was his given name. In the palace the princes were grumbling. In the council of the counselors there was complaints. In the end Lama the throne ascended. Though not of An's seed, he was the eighth to reign. In the councils of the learned, to heal the breach there was two suggestions. One was to use a metal. Gold was its name. On Nibiru it was greatly rare. Within the hammered bracelet it was most abundant. It was the only substance that to the finest powder could be ground. Lofted high to heaven, suspended it could remain. Thus, with replenishments, the breach it would heal, protection make better. Let celestial boats be built. Let a celestial fleet the gold to Nibiru bring over. Let the weapons of terror be created, was the other suggestion. Weapons that the ground shake loose, the mountains split asunder. With missiles the volcanoes to attack, their dormancy to bestir, their belching to increase, the atmosphere to replenish, the breach to make disappear. For a decision, Lama was too feeble. What choice to make, he knew not. One circuit Nibiru completed. 2 shars, Nibiru to count, continued. In the fields, affliction was not diminished. By volcanic belching, the atmosphere was not repaired. A 3rd shar passed. A 4th was counted. Gold was not obtained. In the land, strife was abundant. Food and water were not abundant. In the land, unity was gone. Accusations were abundant. In the royal court, savants were coming and going. Counselors were rushing in and rushing out. The king to their words paid no attention. Counsel from his spouse he only sought. Lahma was her name. If destiny it be, let us beseech the great creator of all. To the king she said, beseeching, not actings, provide the only hope. In the royal court the princes were astir. At the king accusations were directed. Foolishly, unreasoning, greater calamities instead of cure he brought forth. From the olden storehouses weapons were retrieved. Of rebellion there was much speaking. A prince in the royal palace was the first to take up arms. By words of promise the other princes he agitated. Alalu was his name. Let Lama be king no more, he shouted. Let decision supplant hesitation. Come, let us unnerve the king in his dwelling. Let him the throne abandon. The princes to his words gave heed. The gate of the palace they rushed. To the throne room, its entrance restricted, like on-rushing waters, they went. To the tower of the palace the king escaped. Alalu was him pursuing. In the tower there was a struggle. Lama fell down to his death. Lama is no more, Alalu shouted. The king is no more, with glee he announced. To the throne room Alalu rushed. On the throne he himself seated. Without right or counsel, a king he himself pronounced. In the land, unity was lost. Some by the death of Lama rejoiced. Others by Alalu's deed were saddened.